Town of Hinton respectfully acknowledges that it is located on the First Peoples traditional lands. We recognize this traditional territory to show respect and understanding to those who walk this land since time immemorial. Today, we uphold our ongoing responsibility to work together in the spirit of the intent of the treaties with all the First Peoples and nations that call this place home. The town expresses gratitude for the opportunity to build a better community on these sacred lands for generations to come. And with that, we will call this regular council meeting for March 19th, 2024 to order. Section 2, adoption of the agenda. And item 2.1, regular council agenda. Councilors? Oh, sorry. Councilors, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda today? Seeing nothing from council. CEO Panasiuk, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda today?
Through the mayor, no, nothing from administration.
Thank you, CAO. Council, the chair will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda. Councilor Chambers.
I'll make the motion that council adopt the agenda for the regular council meeting of March 19th, 2024 as presented.
Thank you, Councilor Chambers. Council, the motion on the floor is that council adopt the agenda as presented. Any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councilors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Brings us to section 3 of our agenda today, council minutes for adoption. Item 3.1. Councilors? Councilor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that we adopt the regular council for March 5th, 2024 minutes and the committee of the whole for March 12th, 2024 minutes, please.
Thank you, Councilor Haas. Council, the motion on the floor is that council adopt the minutes from the regular council meeting March 5th, 2024 and the committee of the whole meeting on March 12th, 2024. Any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Oh, Councilor Taylor? Did you have a comment for this?
Page 7 under 5.2 was COW 240312.04. Looked like it was a repeat in there by mistake. Is that supposed to be there? Because it's did I miss something? It seemed to be mentioned. Didn't we amalgamate that with the other motion into the motion 03? We didn't go ahead with 04.
To the chair, I can have a look at that and I can bring it forward to the next regular council meeting for adoption.
Yeah, because I think 03 is just is already 04 is already covered in 03 and it shouldn't be there. That's what I think.
Thank you.
I don't know if we want to approve that one until we know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Taylor. CAO Panasiuk.
Through the mayor to council, yes, that is correct. So motion 03 will be amalgamated into 04. So if we wanted to pass these minutes as amended, that would be appropriate.
Thank you, CAO Panasiuk. Councilor Haas.
Yeah, just to clarify, sorry, but I'm trying to follow. Where are we on? That was the committee of the whole we're speaking about?
That's correct.
Okay, those two. Okay, I'm in the right place. Okay, thank you. Just wanted to clarify what we're voting.
Now, Councilor Haas, that motion on the floor is yours. Would you like to amend it to be as amended? Councilor Haas?
Yeah, with CEO's approval, yeah, I'd like to move to amend the committee of the whole for March 12th as amended.
Thank you, Councilor Haas. Council, any dissent to the amendment? Seeing nothing, we'll carry on with the motion as amended. Secretary, can we get that up on the voting, please? Oh, you got it. Oh, maybe I'm on the wrong spot. Oh, there we go. As amended. Do you have it over your number? Yeah. I do not. Okay, council, the motion on the floor is that council adopt the minutes from the regular council meeting March 5th, 2024 and the committee of the whole meeting on March 12th, 2024 as amended. Any discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. And I'll vote in favor by hand as it's not coming up for me. Thank you. And that motion carries unanimously. Councillors, anything further for minutes? Seeing nothing, we'll move to section 4, citizens minute with council. Minute with council provides an opportunity where residents can address council regarding issues, events, celebrations, or concerns. To ensure a constructive and welcoming environment, please adhere to the following guidelines. Keep your remarks concise, limited to 1 minute. Address the chair of the meeting when speaking to council. Avoid asking questions as this is not a Q&A session, and maintain a respectful tone and language. I have 4 citizens on the list so far for Minute with Council, and we'll start with Mr. Wilf Kwasny.
See, got a skeleton crew up here. What happened? Did they quit? Yes, Mayor, council members. First of all, I'm going to thank you for serving the community. Because I know it's not a pleasant job all the time, so I'll thank you for that. Then I'll start out with my first item here. And that's on, this is our town, Hinton Peoples. And it goes back to the Par 99 development. And reason being is do not stretch the town out any further apart than it now is. Look at how many businesses are closing or are near shutting the doors. Put all your energy into filling all the empty spaces that now exist throughout the town, which have the main utilities done or are readily available. Not by creating more empty spaces, lots. That is the only way you will keep the taxes fair for everyone who pays taxes. Give these taxpayers the break. Not plus. This is the way to keep your maintenance costs down and easier to control. Recently, I heard 2 separate discussions claiming that the developer has very deep pockets. So why, I'm going to use this lightly, so why in hell would the town council, Hinton, and administration mayor even think of entertaining and giving huge tax breaks to the developer?
Point of order.
Councillor Haas.
There has been no tax breaks. We've given there, I don't even know it's been applied for, but it's, everyone has an opportunity for the tax incentive bylaw for non-residential. Nowhere has there been any tax breaks given to Par 999 other than what's available to anyone that wants a new development. So I question that word tax break. Everyone has that option.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. And Mr. Kwasny, this is not a Q&A session, so please keep the questions just statements at this time. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, there has been no discussion that council is aware of regarding tax breaks with Par 99.
Thank you,
They haven't
Councillor.
approached us for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Please continue, Mr. Kwasny.
Don't forget these words, the developer pays all. Come on, get real. Council, mayor, and administration, work for the taxpayer and the people of Hinton. Don't be impatient. We live in the jewel of Alberta. Lots. Let's not give it away. to the unknown, please. To me, the Power 99 project, the way it is set out, to me, it is still a scam. And I'll end my note on that.
Thank you, Mr.
I
Quasi.
thank you.
Thank you. Have yourself a good day. Next on the list for a minute with council is Logan, and I don't have a last name. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Hello, Logan Edward Panku here. Just regarding the Par 99. Was just curious on when they were gonna figure it was a good time coming out of the January 2nd issue of the Voice, when it was appropriate to release the land sale agreement. And I know it's not a question period, but I just was curious, what's the name of the appraisal company that did both appraisals on the place? And then I just kind of wanted to end it with that I think it's kind of hilarious that you guys voted a couple weeks ago to give them $20,000+ for a golf assistant or whatever it was, especially when people said the golf course is not an asset, and you guys chose to invest $20,000 plus of the taxpayers' dollars into something you guys got rid of because you thought it was a drain on society or funds. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Panku. And if you'd please give your contact information to administration, they can answer those questions for you. Excellent. Thank you. Next, we have Vanessa. Oh, you want to go last? Okay. Ms. Kate Cardinal then, please.
Once again, I'm offering you our traditional tobacco, smoked by our forefathers long ago. It's in danger, like our forests and our water. If you don't mind, I'd appreciate it if I could start with a prayer today.
Please.
I'd like to thank our Creator, hi, for your love and your guidance from our hearts to honor and respect our beautiful gifts of Mother Earth and all of creation for all generations to come. Hi. I'd like to thank you all also for honoring our unceded territory, Turtle Island. Sat Sri Akal, Namaste, Ni Hao, Kumasta. We have welcomed newcomers before to our land, only to be sideswiped and overtaken. All newcomers and current governments will be held accountable to show compassion, acceptance, and justice for all living things of Mother Earth. She gives us life. You will honor the traditional treaties of our land, Turtle Island, and work with us listening to Mother Earth and correcting imbalances with new and ancient techniques to save all lands, soil, water, and food for all people. Good people across our great land and around Mother Earth are waking up and demanding justice from governments or recalling them. This government has been informed of the numerous unlawful activities occurring in Hinton against our citizens. Therefore, we are calling upon all the citizens who have been unjustly treated in the name of economic development to come forward. If you have lost your job by discrimination or have been asked or charged excessive fees wrongly for government programs, if you have been refused payment for work performed or otherwise been mistreated, please come forward and share your story with our media and the Canadian People's Union. All citizens concerned about future developments in our town can demand reversal of bylaws and rezoning. Step forward now, for you are the people's voice of Hinton and our great country, Canada. Our governments work for us. I'd like to introduce you now to a young Métis gal who wishes to help us protect our local endangered species. Harlow? Hey, hey.
Marlo, if you'd please state your name into that microphone for the record, and then
Harlow.
Harlow. Okay, sorry about that, Harlow. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Harlow Deserly. I want to speak today about the long-toed salamander. I want to bring to your attention that this salamander was listed on the endangered species list as a species of special concern. Because of the limit of breeding range, this salamander is now living in the ponds of the golf course and surrounding areas. Human presence and development are their greatest threat, as well as herbicides and pesticides. They are a very sensitive species. Future development could easily put it back on the endangered species list. I want to help save them by bringing their presence into the ponds of at our golf course into awareness display at the Beaver Boardwalk and school talks on them and how special they are.
Hey.
Hey. Thank you, Harlow, for coming and speaking with us today. Next, we have Vanessa, and thank you, Ms. Cardinal.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us today. I just have a few things that I wanted to discuss regarding housing in Hinton. So I want to address the current housing crisis that we have happening in Hinton, and I also wanted to address the housing options report that I briefly had a chance to take a look at as well. Firstly, the one thing I wanted to comment on is the number of Airbnbs that we have in Hinton. For a town the size, the population of 10,000, when you go on the Airbnb site, we have 173 active Airbnbs listed, available to rent short term. And there are more and more that are happening all the time. They're being prepared to begin as Airbnbs. We often see people sometimes coming in, they're getting evicted because the owners are turning their properties into Airbnb rentals, which it all plays a part in the people, our clients that we deal with, the homelessness and the at risk of homelessness in Hinton, which we are seeing an increase of things happening. We have property investors that are buying 3, 4, or 5, or 6 properties that they're using for short-term rentals, such as crew houses also is another issue that we see in Hinton. Houses are being rented out for working crews from companies, and it's taking away from the families and the people that are in need for long-term housing. They should no longer be allowed. In my opinion, there should be a cap or something happening with the Airbnbs and the crew houses and more heavily restricted. For example, one of the super hosts that were listed on the Airbnb site as of today, 484 Canadian dollars per night. Another one, $884 per night. Another one, $755 per night. These are local Airbnb rentals that are listed on the actual Airbnb site. These are just a sample. There was one over $1,000 per night. And I have to question how many of these Airbnbs actually are following, they have the permits and the regulations in accordance with the town bylaws. And what are the town bylaws? Like, do we have a cap? I don't know these things, but these are things to consider. Do we have a cap currently on the number of Airbnbs that Hinton is allowing to operate in our community? And this, according to the report states somewhere in here I read that Hinton wants to best utilize the existing properties in order to take down those numbers of people in housing crisis. And this is not best utilizing Hinton's existing supply of houses that are available here. In 2022, the town implemented short-term rental regulations, which emphasizes registration and licensing of these short-term rentals. These short-term rentals are contributing to the housing crisis and homelessness and affordability. According to the Housing Options Report I read, and I quote, the rising popularity is the term that was used in short-term rentals is only rising in popularity. That first part was only a quote, the rising popularity part. But they're rising in popularity because that's all that's available. If people don't have a choice to, rent somewhere long-term, or if they get accepted and all they can get is to move into a rental that's from October until April, that's what they're going to take, because that's all that there is. It's not a rise in popularity because that's what people want. It's just a rise in popularity because that's just what's available. And there is actually these short-term rentals, they're actually contributing, and not just in Hinton, but everywhere else, they're actually contributing to the housing crisis. Brew house rentals also take away from families in need of longer, stable, affordable housing. That's another issue that we see here in our town. The Integrated Housing Strategy of 2010 listed 6 specific strategies and gaps that have yet to be filled. Those gaps have not been filled. So shortly, my asks here are, number 1, that town and council revisits the strategies, specifically number 3 that is in the paperwork here, for increase and preserve supply of affordable housing, specifically increasing the supply of affordable housing. Number 2 is to revisit and revise the short-term rental regulations by either capping the number of Airbnbs that Hinton will allow, and number 2, ensuring that all operating Airbnbs are operating within town bylaws and regulations. I don't even know, there's some rumor or speculation that some of them do not operate within permits and regulations, but whether or not that's true, I have no idea. But maybe that's something that the town could look into. And number 3 is to invest and expand low rental affordable housing for the people already living here that are having a hard time, and to expand the diversity of affordable housing and looking into other opportunities to bring in and make sustainable and affordable housing for the people that are already living here and love this community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes our list for Minute with Council. Is there anyone? Oh, wonderful.
Hello, my name is Ken Desley of the Rocky Mountain Cree Nation, Treaty 6. How are our town leaders doing today on our beautiful ancestral homeland? I would like to say from my heart, how do you folks like living on one of the last most beautiful places left on our Mother Earth? To be honest, this development is not wanted by many. There are a lot of red flags. Why are you not listening to the people? We do not need any more development happening on our territory due to the fragile nature of our Mother Earth. This is the last frontier left for numerous endangered species. This is home to them too. We do not have much green space left. If this project happens due to the fragile area where they propose to develop, it will be a crime against nature on the destruction of their habitat. These two are things that have not even been considered. Furthermore, why hasn't the local taxpayers been informed about what's really going on in our community? We have the right to know. The people voted you in, and it's your responsibility to keep us informed from the very start as to what's happening and taking place in our community, is it not? All peoples of Turtle Island have seen and witnessed enough destruction and devastation of our homeland. With the name of progress, we, the Indigenous peoples of Turtle Island, are here to protect what's left for our children, our future generations to come. So please really think of the decisions you make. You cannot eat your money or drink your oil. It's time for all people to wake up and live in harmony with our sacred Mother Earth. She is a living organism, and we must respect her. Hi. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Desilets. Is there anyone else in the audience today that, please, sir?
I haven't come forward on the council for years, but I got a couple concerns with this par 99 and the way the land was sold.
Sir, if you don't mind, just state your name for the record and then state
James
your
Taylor.
piece. Thank you, sir.
And I've lived in Hinton since 1955, so I've seen a lot of changes here. But I'm kind of wondering, when this land went up for sale, it didn't get sold as commercial land. What did it get sold as?
Oh, this is not a Q&A time, sir.
Yeah, I understand that, but that's about the question I got, because I don't know where else to go to ask it. You can't ask it in the paper.
Understood. Make sure you give your name to our administration and they'll be able to answer all of those specific questions for you. Thank you. I understand the frustration on the newspaper situation.
Oh.
Is there anyone else in the audience today that wishes to speak with Minute with Council?
Hi, my name's Leah Dedroy, and regarding the Airbnb like Vanessa spoke about, I was just wondering why there's 103 dwellings going in at the golf course when it was supposed to be a hotel / school. Like, that's a lot of infrastructure. Who's paying for this infrastructure and who are these houses for? When our town's facing a housing crisis. And all of a sudden, like, big cushy houses going up in the golf course. I'm just wondering, like, who are they for? Are they for like you or me, or like, are they for just the people at the school, or just wondering about that? So that's something people should start to consider too, because it was supposed to be a hotel school, and all of a sudden 103 dwellings and golf cottages and all these things. Yet on the ISL website, you look at the map, there is absolutely no golf course pictured on their map. So that's a little kind of red flag to me there. And yeah, I just wanted to say, like, a lot of frustrations are setting in this town. And like Will said, the town is stressed out. You guys are not listening to the people who voted you guys in here, and you're public servants. You serve at our pleasure. We buy your houses, we buy your cars, we pay for your vacations. And the people are serving notice. We're serving notice to the mayor, the town council, that if you don't do your job, you'll have no job. And yeah, this town, we're facing a crisis across this country and in our town. So yeah, we say no more. Start listening to the people.
Thank you, Ms. Desilets. Is there anyone else in the audience today that would like to speak for Minute with Council? Secretary, is there anyone online that would like to speak with Minute with Council?
No, there's no one.
Thank you very much. That will bring us to section 5 of our agenda today, delegations and presentations. The CAO Panacea, can you confirm there are no delegations or presentations today?
Through the mayor to council, yes, I can confirm there are no delegations, but if you would, Mr. Bodrop would just like to introduce our new peace officer to council.
Thank you, CAO Panasiuk, and Chief DeBodrap, please take the floor.
Good evening, your worship and members of council. I have the pleasure today of introducing our new peace officer that is joining Protective Services, Miss Sarah Rempel. She is currently serving as a bylaw officer as we await her peace officer appointments from the province. She comes to us from Slave Lake with several years of experience, and she was a welcome addition to our team. So members of council, members of the public, and those online, your peace officer.
Welcome to the community, Officer Rempel. Thank you, Chief. That will bring us to section 6 of our agenda today, and item 6.1, borrowing line of credit bylaw number 1186. CAO Panasiuk.
Thank you, Mayor. I will turn this one over to Ms. Bourbeau.
Thank you and good afternoon. Today, administration is before you seeking 3 readings on the borrowing line of credit to finance operating expenditures bylaw number 1186. Currently, the town of Hinton maintains an umbrella MasterCard limit of $200,000 and an operating line of credit in the amount of $1.3 million. Both of these instruments, by definition, fall under legislation section 251-1 and are required to be governed by a bylaw. This item is coming forward to council today as our lender ATB Financial requires council to approve the continuance of these credit facilities annually. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Bourbeau. Councillor Taylor.
I'd like to move that council give first reading to the borrowing line of credit to finance operating expenditures bylaw number 1186.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Would you like to speak to it?
Oh, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor.
Well, other than line of credit bylaw is essential to doing business, can be from time to time for any business and the town as well. We see it as a routine business item. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. So council, the motion on the floor is the council gives first reading to borrowing line of credit to finance operating expenditures bylaw number 1186. Any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councillors. Oh, Councillor Taylor.
How often do we use this like say in the last year?
Ms. Bourbeau.
Thank you for the question through to all of council. The line of credit was activated for 10 days in October of 2023, and that was the only time we activated it. The MasterCard, while the limit is at $200,000 with all of the cards issued throughout town, we roughly run about $45,000 per month on it, and it's paid off at the end of every month.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bourbeau. Council, anything further? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. The council gives first reading to borrowing line of credit to finance operating expenditures bylaw number 1186. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Councillor Hawes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move the council give second reading to the borrowing line of credit to finance operating expenditures bylaw number 1186.
Thank you, Councillor Hawes. Council, the motion on the floor is that council gives second reading to borrowing line of credit to finance operating expenditures bylaw number 1186. Any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Councillor Chambers.
I'd like to move that council give unanimous consent to move to a third reading to borrowing line of credit to finance operating expenditures bylaw number 1186.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers. Council, the motion on the floor is that council gives unanimous consent to move to third reading of borrowing line of credit to finance operating expenditures bylaw number 1186. Any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Councillor Hawes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that council gives third reading to the borrowing line of credit to finance operating expenditures bylaw number 1186.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, the motion on the floor is that council gives third reading to borrowing line of credit to finance operating expenditures bylaw number 1186. Any discussion? Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Council, do we have anything further for item 6.1 on the agenda? Seeing nothing, we'll move to item 6.2, Helipad briefing document. CEO Panasic.
Thank you, Council. So the report that you have in front of you today, as well as the attached briefing report, outlines the need for the town of Hinton to incorporate as a part of our advocacy strategy for a helipad adjacent to the Hinton Hospital. As you can see, based on our conversation at the last committee of the whole, the recommendation has been refined to say that the town of Hinton requests that the province of Alberta allocate necessary dollars to construct and maintain a certified helipad adjacent to the Hinton Hospital. As you can see from the report, the criteria that Alberta Health Services use when determining the need for a helipad, it includes the missions per year being over 10. I can confirm that Hinton averages about 12 to 13 STARS missions per year. Distance by ground to tertiary care being within a 45-minute threshold. The nearest tertiary care for Hinton would be located at Edmonton, which is approximately 2 hours and 46 minutes away. And the distance from an airport being 10 minutes, and with the Jasper Hinton Airport being 18 minutes away. So we do meet all three criteria from Alberta Health Services for being at need of a helipad. This is working with AHS. It's not usually a quick process going down this road, but it is one that I think is necessary, one that we meet the criteria. We can certainly incorporate this as a part of our advocacy program, work with the provincial helipad committee that determines the need and where these investments are targeted. So if there are any questions about the report, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, CEO Panasic. Councillor Taylor.
Well, I think it's important to endorse this, but I thought that when we talked about this before, this says endorse this document. But I thought we were going to add, because what the document doesn't have is some of the AHS healthcare health implications of what doing this or not doing this are, like as opposed to the way we're doing things where you have to maybe go to the airport. If we could do this, and this is 20 minutes earlier, and this is X number of times per year, what are the health outcomes to doing this versus the way we're doing things before? That's sort of what this is missing. Is that going to be included in here? Because I think that's going to be pretty important to selling it. If somebody's having a critical heart attack or a stroke or something, that extra 20 minutes or half hour, what's the summation of all the health outcomes of that sort of thing?
CEO Panasic.
Through the mayor to members of council, we can touch on things at a very high level, but I've been working with helipads actually quite a bit throughout my entire career. I haven't been able to obtain that information through AHS on the specific health outcomes and any good data that would support those. Now, there are certain situations that we could speak to, and a stroke is a good one. Stroke also, but we are a regional stroke center, so typically they would be transferred regionally to our location. So we could certainly bolster it with that type of information, especially given the unique nature of the Hinton Hospital and the services that we provide. Any difference between health outcomes with data from AHS on fixed wing ambulance versus STARS interdepartmental transfers, I think is going to be very difficult to obtain. We can certainly look, and we can certainly bolster this over time. You know, with endorsing this report, this is still a living document, and it's a lot of work has to go into this to meaningfully advocate for these for the different levels of government. So as we can get more information, as we work with AHS and bolster our position, we can certainly include that. But I don't know if, you know, I don't think it precludes council from endorsing the document today with, you know, with that in mind, that we need to include this to strengthen our argument.
No, thank you. I'm in favor of it anyways, but I think having, if you can't do the summation of the things, but I think having one real life example of somebody whose health outcome made a difference with this through a stroke or something like that would be a good, I don't know if you use the names or something, but that would highlight how critical it is.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Hawes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to move that that council endorse the helipad briefing document with the recommendations that the province of Alberta allocate necessary dollars to construct and maintain a certified helipad adjacent to the Hinton Hospital. Now, if I can speak to it.
Go ahead.
I think for the various reasons, and I agree with Councillor Taylor, I think one major highlight is being a regional stroke center. I personally have seen in my other hat, you know, many stroke victims coming into our hospital via ground or whatever, having that helipad right next to the hospital. It's a matter of minutes when it comes to strokes and trying to save a life or save the impact to the individual. So I think I'm sensing that this is the endorsement to start the conversation that will bring into a lot of what the account of why Hinton would be a good place to have a helipad for that numerous reasons, you know, whether it's stroke, whether it's we're on Highway 16, we have car collisions, you know, during the summer, things like that. So my guess is that will come. It's just now getting us on the books that we would like to see a helipad in this community and for surrounding communities as well. So I'm absolutely in favor of this. I also want to thank the forestry also for offering that land. I know this has been a conversation in the past, but that land was forestry was using it. But now, you know, having that conversation in forestry open to reconfiguring their space so that they can accommodate is fantastic. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hawes. Council, the motion on the floor is that council endorses the helipad briefing document with the recommendation that the province of Alberta allocate necessary dollars to construct and maintain a certified helipad adjacent to the Hinton Hospital. Councillor Taylor.
I'd just like to clarify something. Was forestry okay with giving us land for a helipad?
You see Openasic?
Through the mayor to members of council. Locally, yes. Now, the local offices, of course, do need to report to the larger ministries. So, you know, we haven't had those conversations at the ministerial level, but locally with our conversation with the executive director, they've indicated that they're in full support of a helipad for the community and would be willing to reconfigure that yard in order to make room. So a local endorsement, but of course, you know, as a part of this advocacy strategy, we'll need ministerial approval from likely numerous departments, including infrastructure, forestry, and Alberta Health Services.
Thank you, CEO Panasic. Council, any further discussion for this item? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question that council endorse the helipad briefing document with the recommendation that the province of Alberta allocate necessary dollars to construct and maintain a certified helipad adjacent to the Hinton Hospital. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Council, is there any further discussion for item 6.2 on the agenda today? Councillor Hawes.
Yeah, I guess to CEO Panasic, what happens next? Just, you know, we have this briefing, we've now endorsed it. Where does it go from here? And, you know, how does this process kind of work? I realize it's in its beginning stages, but you said you're familiar with this. So what are we expecting?
Through the mayor to members of council. So the next step will be to talk to our different stakeholders that'd be involved in this, specifically STARS and our local forestry office, just to make sure that we're okay with everything that we were considering, that we're looking at. And then really it's a matter of going forward to the province, likely working through the Helipad committee. We have some contacts specifically at that committee. And really it's about making our pitch to them. They make their recommendations for investments into these types of assets for the province. But it would be to get that meeting to strengthen our argument with the few changes that we spoke about today, just to make sure we can put our best foot forward. But really that's the gist of it. You know, a little bit more legwork needs to happen, but ultimately we'll be getting in front of the right people who make these recommendations.
Thank you.
Thank you, CO. Thank you, Councillor Hawes. Council, anything further for item 6.2? Seeing nothing, we'll move to item 6.3 of our agenda, the Housing Options Report. CAO Panasic.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. So you have the housing options report in front of you. I realize we are a skeleton crew today, and this is early in the process. Typically, a lot of this is discussion for committee of the whole prior, but we just thought that it was important to get this on the books, give council and the community a lot of time to review the different options, to consider it. This is an important policy decision, something that is in alignment with our strategic and tactical plan. So we want to make sure that the adequate time was available for everybody to look, because it is admittedly, it's a comprehensive report. It casts a very wide net and it incorporates a lot of different elements. You know, in the report, you'll notice that it says, you know, we do not have the capacity to take on every single one of these, nor do I think it's necessarily worth it. You know, we're going to have to take a close look on applying a Hinton lens towards our specific challenges when it comes to housing prior to moving forward with anything. But this is where it starts to take a look at the options that we do have available to us, to ensure council, the community has some time to consider that. So that was really the intent for today, as a matter of introducing this. And we are recommending that council refers the housing option report to the March 26th committee of the whole meeting for further discussion.
Thank you, CAO Panasic. Councillor Taylor.
Was the intent of this to narrow anything down, or that's going to be narrowed down through further discussion?
Thank you, Councillor. Oh, Councillor Taylor, I can answer that question. I requested. Sure, go ahead.
Thank you very much. There is a lot of topics here. And if we do, like you mentioned, do all these topics, we've got a lot of work in front of us. The specific topics that we identified in the strategic plan were topics I think that the Chamber of Commerce identified as well. So, you know, like I talked to developers, nobody's beating down their door to build houses over $500,000, right? So we're talking houses in the, you know, below that amount of money anyways. And where there really seems to be a shortage is in like the $300,000 to $400,000 range. And that's sort of the ones that are getting bought up, like this lady suggested, for Airbnbs, as well as rental properties. So when we try to narrow down exactly what we're talking about and what the tools and strategies are we going to take this project to local stakeholders who have local knowledge in order to narrow it down, and in order to get the tools and strategies that are going to be of use to us in town?
Thank you, Counselor Taylor. And I asked for this item to make it into our regular council agenda so that it would make it into the agenda so that we could read it, we could present it to the community, and we can go forth and start those conversations in the community before we have a discussion in committee. The goal of this presentation today is to introduce both council and our community to the housing options assessment and needs that we have now. There's no discussion from the floor at this time. But to answer your question, Counselor Taylor, yes, or no, not today. We're not trying to down or whittle this down at all today. We're just trying to introduce it, ask any clarifying questions you need today to go out to the community and talk to your constituents and bring it back at the next committee of the whole for a further, more detailed discussion about next steps forward.
Perfect. My clarifying question is then, will we be taking this to local stakeholders with local knowledge in order to get further refinement in the future as we work on this project? There's a lot of people in town that have a lot of expertise in this topic, and we've heard from other people in town as well that can really help narrow us down to our town's problems.
Thank you, Counselor Taylor. CEO Panasic.
Through the mayor to members of council, yes, we certainly can. You know, how we want to move this forward, it'll probably, depend on a lot of different factors. How many of these do we want to look at, and at what point do we engage our stakeholders? I think those are all conversations that we'll need to have. But I think we certainly do want to engage a lot of different stakeholders on this. These are not simple policies. These touch a lot of different areas, and we do have what I would consider a housing expert on council, to discuss. We also have a private industry who also plays a part. We have community groups. We've outlined a number of different stakeholders in this report that this will likely be a combination of efforts from a lot of different stakeholders. So we will need to go through that process. How and when, I think, is up for further discussion.
Thank you, CEO Panasic. Counselor Chambers.
Thank you. I'd be pleased to make the motion that council refer the housing options report to the next committee of the whole meeting. And if I may speak to it.
Please.
I think that this is a really good step, and I certainly appreciate this being brought ahead of time so that the community has some time to read it. Spending any bit of time in the news, you'll see Edmonton's made some big policy changes. Calgary's got their 16 recommendations that they're putting out on different housing things, and it's definitely our turn to take it this lens. And some things will be low-hanging fruit, where we may be able to make a quick impact, and there's a lot that's going to be longer-term strategies that have to be worked out. But very happy to have this report out in the public so that we can engage more and hopefully find some of these solutions. So very happy to support this.
Thank you, Counselor Chambers. Council, the motion on the floor is that council refers the housing options report to the March 26th, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting. Counselor Taylor.
Again, the gaps are listed here, A to F, in the way of gaps. Is the intent as we go forward to identify all these gaps, or to try to narrow down some of those gaps and fit the gaps that we're trying to address through this project to the two items in the strategic plan that we just did we approve it? No, not quite yet. That we're going to approve, I hope. You know what I'm saying? Because
yeah.
I think you said that already, that we can't do it all. So we've got to narrow it down to the issue of the day that we need to address in the next year or two.
Yeah, and through the mayor, and I will clarify, these gaps were identified in 2010. Now, whether things have materially changed since then, I didn't see a large change in the dynamics 14 years ago. I think a lot of it in that study is still very much relevant. There's some good information in there, but there are some things that have significantly changed in my mind. We spoke quite a bit about the short-term rentals, and 14 years ago, I don't think that this was quite as much as of a discussion as it is today. So I think a lot of things have changed, but I think we do need to be very specific about what our strategy is and what we're trying to, what our intent is. Through our tactical plan, we've really focused on a few things. One being that we're going to be looking at options and incentives to encourage residential development. So that's encouraging maybe external partners and how we can look at that. And the other is to look at the regulations and policies on how we can influence housing within the community. You know, there's also direct investment or direct creation options that we've outlined here too. So, you know, there's many different mechanisms available that we can look at, but I think that is the intent, is that we're going to have to narrow it down. We're going to have to be very specific about what our intent is and what we're trying to achieve. Because like I said, housing policy they are not simple. They're complex and they have far-reaching consequences and pros and cons to all of them, right? So I think a very specific lens will be needed, and very specific to the town of Hinton.
Thank you, CEO Panasic. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you for your patience. One of the tools and strategies that I don't see listed here is making sure we work with or continue to work on expedited timeframes with developers on housing projects or projects that could be turned into housing projects. Are we going to be mindful of that as we proceed? Because if we're not mindful of that, we can do all of these tools and strategies and major developments won't occur in a timely manner.
CEO Panasic.
Through the mayor and members of council, we have outlined it, maybe just in different wording, but streamlining the development processes. And we could take a specific look on that, on, you know, what options are available, regulatory options or anything like that, or resources, and how we can expedite those. You know, we'll of course, you know, continue to, you know, we made some improvements in this area of meeting proactively, doing all those things. We'll of course continue to do that, but that is an option for consideration for council to consider. There are, you know, when it comes to residential or large commercial, we can have that discussion, but that has been included in there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Council, anything further? Seeing nothing, we will call the question. The council refers the housing options report to the March 26th, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Councillor Hawes.
Yeah, I just have kind of a, I don't know if it's a late question or not, but we've had a conversation last regular about resolutions at the next AUMA or AM conference. You know, it brought to mind, I never thought of it at the time, but these Airbnbs have been something on the radar for a lot of communities. And the fact that there isn't any provincial regulations, federal regulations, anything like that. I know the province of British Columbia has taken some pretty hard measures towards Airbnb, but I'm just wondering, and I know we're a skeleton crew tonight, but would that be something that could also potentially be a resolution for AM to look into and advocate for the provincial government to take a better stance on Airbnbs in our community, so it's not left to each individual municipality, because ultimately that's where we're at this point. So I don't know if our CEO has any comments or if any rest of council, but yeah, that's where I'm at with this one, I guess.
CEO Panasic.
Through the mayor to members of council, certainly something that we can consider for the resolution process at Alberta municipalities. A very quick search of the resolution library does not show anything specific to short-term rental. I'd have to do a deeper dive into housing strategies and those types of things, but I don't see anything specific on that. But what I would say is, if we did want to advocate and put a resolution forward, that we would have to have a very specific, you know, I think a specific solution in mind that we would want to bring forward during that process. Or our advocacy could be focused around creating a strategy or a a provincially endorsed framework for short-term rental regulations. It would likely be one of the two for that process, but certainly something we can consider. I will say that at the next committee of the whole meeting, we do plan on bringing forward a report on the resolutions just as a touch base on what we have approved. So if we did want to look at others, we can have that conversation then as well.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Councillor Hawes. Councillor Taylor.
Since you asked, yeah, my take on it is we have a unique situation here in Hinton. And a lot of municipalities around the province don't have the unique situation that we have here. We have a wonderful place to live that's close to the mountains. And I think what's happening is that since COVID, a lot of people have discovered that as places like Canmore fill up. So, there are not a lot of towns in the province that fit our circumstances. So it's going to be difficult to go around and get support from other towns. We might have to duke this one out ourselves with the Airbnb bylaw and just do it again, right? That's what I'm thinking. I just don't see a lot of people having our problem.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Taylor's back.
You too. I'm sorry, I forgot your name, but Vanessa brought up an interesting question. She said that there were 173 Airbnbs in Hinton, according to the site. How many of those have gone to the trouble of getting a business license from the town of Hinton as required?
CEO Panasic. Chief DeBodrap.
Through the chair, and truthfully, not nearly enough. Corporate services will be very shortly issuing ticket violations for Airbnbs operating without a business license.
Thank you, Chief DeBodrap.
I have one more.
Councillor Taylor.
Vanessa brought up another good question. Thank you, Vanessa. And that's that, because I've heard this, some people have phoned me. When you take a something that's a residence, and then you turn it into a commercial place where people want to live, and it previously was a residence, whether it's an apartment or whether it is a house, is there a process that you have to follow, like to turn something? Do we give out a permission, development permit, something like that for something like that, or anybody can buy a house and turn it into a crew house? Anybody can buy an apartment and turn it into a crew house. Just is there a process to that?
CEO Panasic.
Through the mayor to members of council, there are tools that municipalities can utilize in order to enforce that, but typically for municipalities, they look at zonings and they look at use. So as long as the use has not changed, there really would not be a requirement for an additional development permit or any involvement from the municipality. So if some of the recent discussions, but if there are you do have long-term rentals and you want to convert that into, say, crew housing, it is still a dwelling, and it would not require a change of use necessarily. So that is possible if they wanted to convert it from a residential unit into a commercial use. They wouldn't require if the use has changed of the development, but just changing the nature of, we'll say the rental relationship or the ownership relationship doesn't necessarily trigger the need for a new permit, and it wouldn't necessarily trigger the involvement of a municipality. With that said, there are tools available and tenant protection regulations that a municipality can employ. They're not overly common within small communities, but again, we have a very unique circumstance here in Hinton. So that is part of the tools and levers that are available to us.
Thank you.
Thank you, CEO Panasic. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Council, is there anything further for item 6.3 on the agenda tonight? Seeing nothing, we'll move to item 6.4, strategic plan and tactical plan update. CEO Panasic.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. So we have gone through the a strategic check-in just to ensure that the strategic and our tactical plan is still at the forefront. It's a living document. We put a lot of weight on our strategic and tactical plan to guide the operations and guide the strategy of the municipality. So in our most recent check-in, we've identified a few things that were needed to be changed or tweaked or going forward. So we have brought that forward in a red line copy for council. We had these discussions and further refinement at committee of the whole. We are bringing forward a cleaned up version of strategic and tactical plan for council to review, and we are recommending adoption.
Thank you, CO Panasic. Council? Councillor Haas.
Yeah, so we're just going to bring it up here. There we go. Yeah, I'd like to move that council adopt the strategic plan and tactical plan updated as presented. And if I could speak to it,
please.
Again, we went through quite a detailed strategic planning session prior to this, and then had, I believe, again, another look at it at the last committee. Made some alterations on the SWOT, which I think were beneficial, and even though the SWOT is not the meat and bones of this, but it is the first thing you see on, and we've made some definite headway in regards to the SWOT, in regards to staffing and so forth. So I'm happy to see that. I want to thank the mayor also for putting his letter in there too, as well, to change it. But I think we're on the right path to our strategic goals. And the tactical plan, well, that's an ongoing thing to have that conversation, but I'm happy with personally with the direction we're going, and speeding up some of the areas, housing being one of them, that we're having that conversation a lot sooner than was originally on the tactical plan, and different options. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, the motion on the floor is that council adopt the strategic and tactical plan update as presented. Any further discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Councillor Taylor.
Would like to say that under this administration, more so than what I'm used to in the past, we've done this administration has done a pretty good job of following the strategic plan and putting timeframes and following those timeframes, and actually making the strategic plan a sort of real document that directs how we do things. And I appreciate that. And I think you've done a way better job at that than what I've been used to in the past. Thank you very much.
Councillor Haas.
Thank you. I want to build off that. Councillor Taylor is absolutely correct. I mean, this last term with the strategic plan, the development of a tactical plan was the first time we ever experienced that as well. Our previous term didn't have that, but it's been a very valuable tool for both administration, but also as council too. It really sets some goalposts, and I appreciate administration sticking to that, not just being on the shelf and not paying attention to it, but using that as a plan moving forward as well. So I do echo what Councillor Taylor is saying as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. And council, is there anything further for item 6.4 on the agenda this evening? Seeing nothing, we'll move to section 7, correspondence, and 7.1, council correspondence. And council, I'm going to take the liberty of reading this first correspondence into the record for those viewing us at home. This letter addressed to myself from the office of the Honorable Todd Loewen, Minister of Forestry and Parks, is in response to a letter that our council sent to Mr. Loewen, or the Honorable Mr. Loewen, regarding the transition of the Mountain Pine Beetle Committee to a Wildfire Prevention Committee. And so for those at home and in the audience, here's the letter. Dear Mayor Nissen, thank you for your letter regarding transitioning the Mountain Pine Beetle Mitigation Committee to a focus on Wildfire Prevention Committee. Mountain pine beetle populations have declined largely to endemic levels in recent years. As a result, the Mountain Pine Beetle Mitigation Committee was disbanded in September of 2023. Provincially, there are numerous initiatives underway that align with your proposal. Notably, the rural municipalities of Alberta recently passed Resolution 7 Tech 23F regarding development of a long-term strategy for wildfires impacting municipalities outside the forest protection area. Municipal affairs will lead the discussion. However, Forestry and Parks has expressed support for the rural municipalities of Alberta's leadership on this initiative, and we look forward to taking an active role on this working group. Forestry and Parks implements comprehensive wildfire prevention and mitigation programs that include engineering, e.g. changing the composition of hazardous forest fuels, education, and enforcement. To reduce the number of human-caused wildfires, some departments' wildfire prevention and mitigation initiatives including its Fire Smart program, are directed at communities, industry, and the general public. Additional information about Alberta's Fire Smart program is available on the department's website at https://www.alberta.ca/firesmart. FireSmart supports activities such as municipal development controls, public education, legislation, interagency cooperation, cross-training, emergency planning, and vegetation management. FireSmart focuses on wildfire mitigation and preparedness and is a shared responsibility involving all levels of government and participation from individuals and community leaders. I am pleased to share with you that the Foothills FireSmart Committee is one of the longest standing committees with a focus on wildfire prevention and mitigation and has been active since 2007. This committee is dedicated to minimizing wildfire risks to human life, communities, resources, and infrastructure. It promotes Fire Smart principles and collaborates in planning and preparing for efficient wildfire response. Forestry and Parks has launched the development of an Alberta wildfire mitigation strategy with the goal to improve and strengthen Alberta's resilience to wildfires through collaborative actions to guide rural and remote and Indigenous communities' mitigation efforts aimed at reducing the risk of wildfire loss and damage. Engagement with municipalities and other stakeholders during strategy development will be important. This strategy will also help to inform public safety and emergency services, fire and flood strategy for a whole of society approach to wildfire prevention and mitigation. My department is also working with the Forest Resource Improvement Association of Alberta, that's FRIA, to administer a community fire guard program with the goal of providing municipalities with financial assistance needed to construct fire guards in high-risk communities across the province and integrate livestock grazing as a guard maintenance tactic and economic opportunity. Thank you for taking the time to share your concerns and suggestions regarding the safety of Albertans. Edson Forest Area staff have a long-standing relationship with the town of Hinton and their regional emergency management partners. For questions or concerns, or for more information, I encourage you to contact the Edson Forest Area Manager at 587-988-9157. Sincerely, the Honorable Todd Lowen, Ministry, Forestry and Parks. The second piece of correspondence for us today is a thank you message, and I'd like to read this one as well. It says, Town of Hinton, you rock. The 2024 Freeze and Chili Loppet was a huge success. Thank you very much for the 2 gift bags of Town of Hinton swag, which were given away as door prizes. Over 123 participants had a great time, and it's because of volunteers and awesome local businesses like yours that made a great and free family event. And for those of you at home watching today, I know that the Hinton Nordic Society is looking for volunteers for next week for the biathlon. So please come out again to participate in a great event. And that will conclude the correspondence section. Councillor Taylor.
Oh, thank you. Thought you were going to miss me. No, as you read the Todd Lowen Fire Prevention Committee letter, I'm sure my fellow councillors were thinking the same thing that I was. that is in light of that kind of response is a resolution for a provincial fire prevention committee necessary. And when we get to discussing the resolutions next week, that's going to be important. So it's going to be important maybe for you to just review this letter and try to understand it, or keep these points in mind. My take on it is that this is a provincial government that's telling us that, yes, they're doing a lot of things with fire stuff, which is so they should, because we've got going to have a fire problem in the future. But that's still nothing that they're doing is as all encompassing as what we're suggesting, which is a provincial fire prevention committee or municipalities in fire at risk communities will have some sort of significant say in what's going on. Nothing they said in here changes that fact as far as I can see. And I just like to bring that to your attention. Yeah, they're doing a lot of stuff. That's good. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that we accept council correspondence for information.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, the motion on the floor is that we accept the correspondence for information. Any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously with Councillor Taylor voting by hand in favor. Councillors, is there anything further for item 7.1 on the agenda this evening? Seeing nothing, we'll go to notices of motion. Administration, are there any notices of motion this week?
Thank you, Mayor. There are no notices of motion.
Thank you, CEO Panasic. That will take us to section 9, reporting and council reports. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Only thing to report this week is we had our BBOC committee meeting last week. So we had an opportunity to discuss wayfinding signs and get a report on that. So we're happy to say that administration had done some work on wayfinding signs. And during the absence of one of our staff members, we had the opportunity to consult with a contractor, and we were definitely on the right track, made a few adjustments. So there'll be some wayfinder signs going up in the future. We identified there are kind of different areas, but we only really wanted to focus on 3 different trails, even though they overlap. So to try to reduce some of the confusion in that regards. So we had that. And then also just wanted to mention this Saturday on the 23rd, we have the 40th anniversary for the library event. So we're going to have local musicians and storytellers and different things for kids at the library from 12 to 4. So please come on out and enjoy. CBC Radio is also going to be present. They're having an initiative in regards to getting more involved in rural Alberta. So they're going to be present during that event as well. So we're happy to have them. And they're also sponsoring it. So that's also very helpful. So just wanted to, if you got anything going on Saturday, come on out to the library. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Chambers.
Thank you. So not too much going on with me this last little while, but I was able to attend the fundraiser for the Hinton Food Bank and help at the Overlander on Sunday night. It was a well attended event. The food was incredible. Lots of money was raised. It was a really good event. And just a small thing, they had a grand reopening for the Mr. Mike's, which has a new ownership now. They had a nice little event as well, inviting different members of the community and council to come out and enjoy their celebration with them. So I was able to do that as well. So it's nice to see some expansion of local business and to be able to support them that way.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, ditto on the last 2 events. I won't repeat it, other than I own a pair of St. Patrick's Day socks I didn't own before, and a little button. And tomorrow's a good celebration. We're going to the Mondi grand opening So that's an important event in our community, an historic event when you look at our history that we're getting a paper mill. So it would be good to encourage and help them as much as we can. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. And for myself, last week I attended the ASHA conference. That's the Alberta Seniors and Community Housing Association. Interesting discussions across the board, and housing is not a new problem. It's certainly not a problem that's isolated to Hinton. I did find it interesting that our own homegrown Evergreen Foundation had a staff member win a scholarship for just outstanding work. And I found out that Evergreen Foundation in Hinton has won this award 3 times, and we're leading the province. So I want to say fantastic work by a not-for-profit that we support here in Hinton for housing. Additionally, last week I was at the Municipal Leadership Caucus, and we've been talking, or we've mentioned in today's meeting a couple of times about our Alberta Munis resolutions. And I met with the mayor and chief administrative officer from the town of Red Deer, or the city of Red Deer, and they have a resolution that speaks to our extreme weather sheltering piece that we passed as a possible resolution for ourselves that we could second. The wording of it obviously is a little bit different than ours, as they're a much bigger center. But we would have to adjust our wording anyways to get a second if we were going to go that route. So I'm sure that when we have those options presented in committee, the option to second an existing resolution from another community is going to be presented. And with that, I will go to Chief Administrative Officer reporting, CEO Panasic.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing to report.
Thank you, CAO. That will take us to section 10 of the agenda. Councillor Hawes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that we adjourn.
Excellent. Council, the motion on the floor is to adjourn the meeting at 5:22 p.m. Council, please vote now. Councillor Taylor voting in favor. That motion carries unanimously.